To the top right of the map, we have the Terran player for SKT1. He's down a game in the series. It is
SK텔레콤 T1 판타지.
Fantasy. And he is going up against the Zerg player with an impressive game 1 on Belshire. To the bottom left of the map, the Relic Watcher for Team Azubu.
Azubu Sleep.
And we are talking a little bit about how Sleep actually got his nickname, and a quick shout out to Davey Jones on Twitter, who sent me a tweet and said that Sleep got the name from his teammates. They said he always looked very sleepy. So I actually think that's more that's something that applies a little bit more to Supernova. But
Yeah,
I can
well, these
see
days,
it.
yeah.
I can actually see that like applying to Sleep as well.
Yeah, definitely. Really. A lot of players looking sleepy. I'm thinking Supernova, sometimes Boom Boom.
Yeah. You know what I like? I really like how Sleep is scouting in the games. The early drone scouts that we have for him, a lot of Zerg players are skipping those for the same reasons that Protoss and PvP is oftentimes just skipping the probe scout.
Yeah.
The very early probe scout. He makes sure that there is no double barracks opening, and thanks to the drone scout, he also sees that we currently have a command center first for Fantasy. He's able to harass the SCV a little bit. Fantasy, of course, not a player who is thrown off guard by such a simple move. He immediately uses his own SCV to force the drone back. But it just gives him all the information that he needs, and now he can adjust his play if he wants to. We have him with the hatch first in this game, going into gas, straight into pool. So Sleep with a very, I want to say a very solid play. A play where he doesn't leave a lot of things to chance.
It's reactionary for sure. He doesn't take risks without scouting and seeing what his opponent is doing. And if he is doing something that is definitely more economic based, he's going to make sure that whatever he's facing is prepared for. Like when he took the fast fourth, after the fourth was saturated, he just rushed out a massive amount of Banelings. He went up to like 28 Banelings and had 3 Spinecores on top of the ramp because he was saying, well, of course you're going to be aggressive now, but I already thought one step ahead. And he will have actually quick speed here as he goes gas before pool.
Yeah, with the gas that he has right now, we have the double queen now currently being built, and the 4 queen build that he used in game number 1 already gave him a pretty good position there. He was able to not only fend off the rebirths that gave him a bit of trouble in the early game, but then when we had the Hellions trying to force the issue and moving their way in, the queens definitely helped out. This time, with the earlier speed, he has already a really good tool that he can use, but he's going to rely on those queens anyways. Like, we have the double queen now coming in. I kind of doubt that he's going to go for the same number that we had in the last game.
No, I don't think so either.
I feel if he does, then he's more, the reason is going to be more that he really wants to have the queens as an added tool to use for creep spread. And he actually gets the second queen. Because those 4 queens in game number 1 were like the key thing that he had for the map dominance early game, where he had this massive creep spread out there. He doesn't really need to go for 4 queens if he has speed, but he wants to have them just as a safety precaution, and also I expect that we are gonna see a very, very fast creep spread in this second game, given now that he has the energy.
Yeah. You know, the thing about his creep spread in game number 1 is it just bought him all the time he needed to deal with the first few waves of Fantasy's aggression, and we talked about it so much already about how he's reactionary, how he plays a solid game. But I love to see how Sleep looks at a situation like the 3rd command center, takes the 4th base, drones up heavily, and then since he's so good at spreading creep, not every Zerg player could actually hold that aggression and take the 4th base like that against the 3rd CC, but Sleep knows that his creep spread is good enough that he can actually move it out far enough. So it's not about connecting the bases like it is for most, even high-level Zergs. It's about pushing it so far forward that you can always see every angle of approach and hold drops without Mutalisks, like you mentioned. He got the Spire very late with the 4th base, which means that usually a Terran player can just use drops all over the place through the mid-game. But because his creep spread is so good, he can see everything wherever the drops are going.
Yeah. That's what he's doing now. He has 2 queens for the injects, and the other 2 queens have one job in the game, and that is to put creep tumors into the match and make sure that the creep is spread really fast. He's once again trying to spread into a couple of directions at the same time. The Hellions have been scouted with the Overlord in the game. And we have Overlord Speed. And that Overlord Speed is not only crucial for scouting the main base, but he is using it as a tool to get the Overlords in a line in the middle of the map to see everything. It's just beautiful how he uses that. A lot of Zerg players have started this much earlier in the games right now. But most of the time it's just to scout the main base. It's like to find out, okay, first of all, what are you doing? Second of all, if you have a Viking, I can just retreat and I can get them to safety. But he is spreading all of his Overlords.
Look at the map. To the bottom of the natural for Fantasy, in case the drop goes that way. And he's also going up to verify there's any tech in there. He's got one to the top, which is barely saved, which would not have been saved without Overlord Speed. He's got two in the middle, like you said, one in the very square in the middle, then one to the north of his third base, and two to the south. So basically there's no way that Fantasy is going to go anywhere on this map without him seeing it.
Fantasy is not going for aggression. He's actually relying on his 3 bases, and he looked at game number 1 and he said, you know what? I actually feel that on a different map, if I know what I'm doing, if this with the strategy that I used, I can still beat you. I can still beat you in the late game. I'm not going to pressure you early on. And in the map, on Belcher, it was a mistake. On Belcher was something where I was probably like thinking, okay, I should maybe have done that a little bit different there. He let Sleep get out of control, and now he's risking the same thing. But he feels confident that in the late game, his control and his macro is going to be the things that give him the edge here. So I'm very interested to see if he's able to pull this off.
I'm actually just so... I mean, everything you said is true, and I won't doubt you for a second, but I'm so focused on this Overlord spread right now. All I can do is look at the minimap. I want to take a picture. You guys can do that because you're at home and you can screen cap it. I mean, he just has... There's like literally not a single place on the map where Fantasy could go or not be seen. Now, talking about economies, 73 drones and 58 harvesters. The economy very solid for Fantasy here. He finally moves his command center down. And the 22 Marines, 2 Medevacs, and 4 Hellions that are coming across the map should not pose a problem for Sleep as long as he controls well. He's got a Zergling flank setup already going around the back. He already sees this, saw it coming a mile away with all of his Overlords that he has all over the map.
5 Spore Crawlers immediately, and the Banelings. So he is trying to set everything up again for anti-drop play. We have the scans coming in now, taking the creep down. Zerglings within a run-by attempt. Nearly getting in there.
Where's the lift on the depot? Where's the lift on the depot? He just stimmed those Marines and did not lift the depot. I cannot believe it. He targets down the hatchery.
And that gives him the surface area that he needs to take down that one single bunker that is there. And he goes straight towards that third base.
He's going to force loss mining here as well. Maybe even a lift on the command center. Doesn't look like it quite yet, but he's going to kill a refinery. And oh no, Fantasy, where's the split? Okay, that was close. The creep spread here actually a little bit lacking. No Baneling speed just yet.
Sleep taking a little bit of a chance here, trying to move out and hoping that his opponent doesn't see what's happening. He doesn't have speed completed for the Banelings, but he's still fast enough on creep. He takes down the Hellions, and that was important. Nice targeting here with the Marines, but Fantasy lost the Hellions, and that's usually what you want to have when you're chased by Banelings. You just turn around, get the shots off, and take the Banelings out.
Counter.
18 Harvesters as a follow-up.
He's basically saying, like, okay, this phase is done.
Yeah, it's like, okay, this is it. Yeah, like, your Hellions are gone, Marines alone. Nah, no way. I have Burrow, I have Banelings. You're not going to commit to this. Banelings. Sorry, drones, of course. Like
and
18
consider
of
that
them.
he made a ton of spines, or rather, spore crawlers earlier. So that's going to be drones that he lost. He has to replace those. And I'm telling you, I'm really impressed with Sleep's play right now, if you couldn't tell. Here comes another engagement on creep, this time with Baneling speed.
Sleep is heading into 2-2 way before Fantasy starts his own set of upgrades.
His armory's not even done.
Exactly. He doesn't even have the armory, and we already have a halfway completed Spire. Here comes the Medivac. Guess what's going to be scouted first? There's an Overlord right where he's headed, and the Overlord already spotted it. That base, he might have to cancel it, but he's going to be fine with that. He already has 3 bases.
Yeah.
Well, at least for now. I mean, he wants to, of course, have the 4th now that Fantasy has his own 3rd.
Well, drop down here to the south, spots the hatchery, and will kill it.
The bank that he has will go into Mutalisks right away. That's the reason why Fantasy is currently ahead in supply, because we have like 1,500 gas and also minerals saved up for Mutalisks. But now Fantasy, I mean, Fantasy has also played a pretty good macro game if you, for a second, disregard that missed lift on the supply depot and the problems that he had at the third against the Zerg.
Yeah. This medevac should be taken out. The hatchery to the south is actually saved, at least for now. He's going to go for an attack here once he kills the rocks, and he's scared to actually lift in medevacs because of the mutas.
You know, not only the mutas, the +2/+2, that's something he doesn't know about, but the +2/+2 is going to be in place.
I think he actually might be able to save this hatchery, but he's not in position. He's too far behind the hatchery. If he runs down here, I think he might be able to save it. It's going to be close.
Well, he moves in right now, and the upgrades, they should be done by now.
So many Widow Mines here, on the other hand, makes it very difficult for him to actually approach.
Yeah, he's moving in with the Banelings. Supply block currently. He lost an Overlord there. Sleep, that is.
I love
Getting
Sleep's
6 at
patience
a
here.
time.
He's so patient. He does not overcommit. Look at that. Baits the shots out like that. That was totally intentional. And now I think he's just going to keep holding here. He's never going to run up that ramp. He just doesn't have to.
40 Zerglings at a time. 2-2 is done. 1-1 only for Fantasy, but he has a supplier lead. A huge bank currently for Sleep. Fantasy with the aggression. A lot of aggression on that 4th base. He's sending unit over to the 3rd as well. Here we have the Baneling once again going in, and now he has enough to actually just crush this if he wants to, but the 3rd base is under a lot of pressure.
Oh, and that was a great Widowmine shot as well. The second one, very good. Here come the rest of the Banelings here. He pushes this back, but like you said, the 3rd base or the base to the north, whichever base you want to call it, looks like it may fall because there's no answer here.
Fantasy in this game with a lot more pressure in the mid game against his opponent, and Sleep, he looked dominant for a little bit, but the Terran play is doing a great job here. The Widowmine shots were exactly what he needed. That 3rd base is a goner. Sleep was so focused on defending his 4th that the 3rd was completely unnoticed, and he has such a massive bank, but the lava, that's an issue. Look at this 2,000 nearly against, oh my god, this is so many Mutilas that he could have had there.
And you know, the hatcheries being gone is not as much of an income problem as it is for a larva problem right now, considering his bank. The gas will become an issue as well. And here we go, the hatchery to the bottom. Can he actually snipe it this time? The Banelings are not ready. They're almost ready, on the other hand. Fantasy making a Thor here, preparing for that Mutalisk commitment like we saw in game number 1. And it turns out that Thors are pretty good against Banelings.
He's moving in, and Fantasy is pulling Illidan here. You are not prepared. He's going in with those fire units. A Thor at the front, tanking a few shots. Then now the Widow Mines are in cooldown. The Banelings trying to connect, but there are so many Marauders, they can't connect with them. They are going for the Marines instead. But still, Sleep is holding on somehow, but Lava just is an issue. If he loses this base, I think it's going to be all over since he doesn't have the production anymore.
That Widowmine is going to get the money shot. But he still actually may lose some of his medevacs here. 2 Marauders are like, hey, wait for me! But,
the armor upgrade has been started, and for Sleep, really, the big issue was the lava. He had at times 2,000 minerals and 1,000 gas, but he couldn't use them. If he gets that into units, if he has the production, he makes a massive lead in supply. He gets like 20, 30 supply instantly, and that's like supply that he can use to take down these units. The Widow Mine, a small misstep by Fantasy, not burrowing it, can't shoot here, of course, goes down as well as the Marines.
the Spine Crawlers here actually are a great choice, I feel. I really like it because it's starting to engage upper ramp into the Widow Mines. If the Spine Crawlers are there, though, it makes the approach a little bit more difficult for Fantasy, who, by the way, does start 3-3 right now.
Fantasy with great aggression in this game. I love his moves here. I like what he does. This is just the endless aggression that you need to put up against a player like Sleep. And Sleep, I mean, this is a game on Razor's. This is on Razor's Edge. Like, right now, if Sleep holds, he has a good chance of winning the game, but Fantasy just with non-stop aggression, and if this base goes down, another drop at the 3rd being shut down, and over again, Fantasy pushing down that ramp.
Where are the queens? How many queens does he have? He has only 3. And this is something he really needs to fix, because if if he's really hitting the injects a little bit better...
Oh wow, did you actually see that? That queen was nearly at full energy.
Oh! Yeah, I saw that. He's missing some injects here, but that Thor got Magic Box. The Midas ate a ton of damage, and then he saves it. But yeah, you're right. One of the queens on full energy. He just has the minerals to remake them. I'd like to see that more transfuses going down on some of these hatcheries. Of course, it's very difficult when you have to micro against this Terran force that's, honestly, when you're on the top of the ramp, so much easier for the Terran player to control.
The fun thing is that Sleep had a macro hedge like nearly the entire duration of the game, but I feel he was missing a lot of his injects, which in game number 1 just didn't happen. His macro there was much better, but at this point, he's now once again having 4 queens in the game. He's moving in right now with those Mutalists, taking down those Thors at the 3rd there. Zerglings defending against the job, and Fantasy is coming down the ramp once more, but the supply is equalized. Sleep is trying to stabilize in the game, and I think he might have done it, but it's not done yet.
It's not over yet, of course, but he's definitely saved this hatchery. For the first time, it looks like he can finally just breathe here. And Fantasy, not able to do any damage in the north with all those Lings that Sleep left up there. And the 3-3 upgrades, though, on the other hand, are going to become a problem. The Mutalists just have so much staying power, though, with the upgrades, with that new regeneration in Heartless Swarm, and it just looks like if you can make enough Mutas in the game and continue using them to defend, they just have so much utility.
Sleep is juggling so many fights, so many things at the same time now. Fantasy is just barreling down, and there's a barrage of attacks that go down on that 4th base, with Fantasy always sparing a medevac or 2 to just drop on other points in the map. Where is the Queen for the Spire? Where's the inject? No focus by Fantasy.
No focus
Even the
here
Marauder
at all.
doesn't focus.
And he's actually struggling to multitask here a little bit. Ran all of his units away. This gives now the engagement to Fantasy, who may finish off the hatchery. He runs away instead. He's parade pushing right now, SC style.
Fantasy is going for a 4th base behind it. He never really lost sight of his economy, and the 4th is so important for him. Being 4 base against 4 base versus a Zerg player is just great for him. The drop now going towards the 3rd base, taking down another Queen potentially. Yes, Queen goes down. The +2 armor upgrade for the Mutalisks is soon coming into play, but we already have 3-3 for Fantasy completed, so he can move in with what he has. And this Bioforce is just getting more and more efficient by the minute.
Yeah. And, you know, it's just so hard for Sleep to... He would like to have an Infestor or 2 here, but he just can't afford it right now. Not while all the aggression is gone. He doesn't have a second to spare. You know, with all the gas he has, though, he could go for it. He's actually going to try to break through here. Magic Box in the Thor. No more Widow Mines, and the Banelings do connect. But the thing is, it's just not the best trade here for Sleep. I don't think he's going to be able to recover after losing so much during that engagement.
The Marines are currently German soldiers. They are efficient as hell. They are moving in and taking down as much as they can. The Mutalisks doing their shots, and yes, they were able to just stop this barrage for a second, but that onslaught just continues. Fantasy is pushing down, and he's pushing hard, and Sleep he just can't withstand this much pressure with the mistakes that he made early in the game.
He doesn't have the larva. He doesn't have the economy. He's now down to 54 drones against 69 of Fantasy. Fantasy kills the hatchery and walks away. Now he's just going to max out, and he's got total control over this game.
Sleep is trying to go for the counter-aggression. He knows that losing the 4th base was a huge blow to his economy, and the only thing that he can do is making sure that Fantasy is already also suffering a few losses. But Fantasy, this time he committed to a few more missile turrets. He has the extra Widow Mines. 5 of them are being built as we speak, and this is just looking very grim for Sleep. Great start into the game, then a bit of a miss macro that he had there, and because of it, Fantasy gained even more momentum that he already would have. He played a really good game this time, and here come the drops. Sleep is ready, but this, I mean, the supply alone tells the tale. 194 against 109.
He's not hitting he's not misstepping any of his micros. He's hitting all of the right buttons when it comes to making units. He has an economy to support that. Sleep is trying to affect it, but killing a refinery that barely has any gas left is not going to be game-changing here. While he still fails to take his 4th base again, he's got an army going up to the north that's going to attack his 3rd base. His 3rd remaining base is only 1 of 2 mining hatcheries left. And I don't see any way of him stopping it. Not with the Thor here, the Widow Mines, the beautiful split here that we see from Fantasy. He also clears up a lot of the creep. And he's just going to slowly but steadily work his way in there. And there's no infestors. There's no economy.
Fantasy, with the same build as in game number 1, he was already signaling from the start that he thinks, okay, I can take you. I know what you're doing, and I can beat this. I just have to play it a little bit closer. I have to put a bit more pressure in the mid-game against you. And that's what he did in the game. And it worked beautifully so far. He hasn't done it just yet, but he is on the way of accomplishing it. Dropping once again with the double Medivac. And the double Medivacs in this game, not really doing a lot of damage, but they were always drawing the forces of Sleep thin. And that's what he wanted to do. He had the edge, and just look at all these units now once again streaming across the map to the bottom left.
Yeah, just look at the mini-map. You can see this army of Fantasy is kind of making itself converging onto one point. Widow Mines here burrowing so quickly. Lack of splitting there, but there's just so many Mirages and so many Widow Mine shots, it does not matter. Here they come again. Ouch.
Yep.
That's game, I think. I mean, Fantasy's next move is going to kill the last mining base. The Natural is no longer mining.
And we even have a 5th base coming into play now for Fantasy. Yes, the Mutalisks are headed that way, but this base is not going to survive. There's just no chance that burst damage that we have is going to kill that 3rd. Yes, you can kill the commands, and, well, good luck with that, but what are you going to do afterwards?
Yeah, I mean, afterwards he's going to type GG, I think. And in fact, that's exactly what happens. GG.
Great game number 2 between both of them. Sleep. A few mistakes in the early mid-game that's kind of snowballed out of control, but Fantasy with such an impressive performance here. And we get the 3rd game that we wanted.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're going to get here. And, well, what an intense series. Game number 2, Fantasy definitely getting the good shots off with his engagements, with his multitasking and harassing at the south. Having that high ground position, it's such a difficult base for the Zerg to defend, especially when you're going Mutalisks heavy like this and you don't have any infestors. Every time the Terran player sieges up, I mean, not with siege tanks, but with Widow Mines, he's literally sieging the base with Widow Mines. He sends a small group of Marines and baits the Banelings out. The Banelings get hit by Widow Mines. It's so difficult for Sleep to engage. And Sleep had one moment of momentum where he evened the supply up, he took a good engagement, and then 3-3 finished, and he just couldn't keep going.
Sleep just had a macro problem
And
in
that
this
as
game.
well, yeah.
Game number 1 was great macro by him. Everything went according to plan. He was pressured a lot more in game number 2, and his macro just slipped. And that's when he had the problem. He had a macro hedge like the entire time, but lava was the issue. He was missing too many injects, and he lost the momentum that he gained in game number 1. That's something that he didn't have in game number 2. But a great game either way. Like I feel like both players were shining in one of the maps. So right now we have the third and final map between the two of them. Only one can go to the Premier League. Is it going to be Fantasy? Is it going to be Sleep? We're going to find out now. Frost is going to be it. Funny thing is that actually how the Koreans spell it, it's like the German word for cheers. It's actually Prost. Prost.
Well, here we go.
Yeah.
Game number 3, the final game, the deciding one. One of these two players is going to Codes. Will it be Fantasy, the fan favorite, or is it going to be Sleep, the defending Codes player who just dropped down? Let's find out right now. Only one can advance. This is the WCS Korea Challenger League with Powder and Wolf.